A very good afternoon. This is the Ambassador with me, your Ambassador Jennifer Makau. South Africa has entered uncharted political territory with President Cyril Ramaphosa formation of a new coalition government. The coalition includes 7 different parties, a historic move in the country's post-apartheid era. The agreement largely rests on the 2 largest parties, the African National Congress ANC and the Democratic Alliance DA. Putting aside their ideological differences and decades of being political rivals, the ANC, which won 40% of the vote, retaining 20% of 32 cabinet minister positions, including key roles in finance, trade, and foreign affairs. Here is a full report.
For decades, the ANC had traded on its legacy of adding apartheid 30 years ago, when Nelson Mandela came to power and successfully reconciled a country deeply divided along racial, ethnic, and class lines. But voters became angered by the ANC poor record on delivering on basic services, including water, schools, and electricity. The DA want to scrap some of the ANC black empowerment programs, saying that they have mostly made a politically connected business elite fabulously wealthy, where much of the black majority stays poor. It opposes the ANC desire to expropriate land, most of which is in white hands as a legacy of conquest by colonists and subsequent entrenched white minority, lure without compensation and give it back to black farmers. Stein Hussein, the DA leader, was appointed as the new agriculture minister. Other smaller parties like the Inkatha Freedom Party, Patriotic Alliance, and Freedom Front plus also received cabinet position in the new government of national unity. Ramaphosa said the cabinet reflects the diversity of South Africa and the new coalition government will prioritize economic growth, tackling poverty and inequality, and creating jobs.
The incoming government will prioritize rapid, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth and the creation of a more just society by tackling poverty and inequality, as well as unemployment.
Whether the current loose coalition of former enemies can improve on ANC record may depend on the extent to which they can put aside their ideological differences.
Cairo became the focal point of international economic diplomacy as the President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen convened for a landmark investment conference against a backdrop of a $7.9 billion funding package aimed at stabilizing Egypt's economy. The conference saw the signing of lucrative agreements worth billions of dollars, cementing Egypt's pivotal role in Europe's energy strategy amidst regional challenges. Here is a full report. The United States Justice Department escalated in pursuit of accountability from aerospace giant Boeing BAN, announcing plans to criminally charge the company with fraud over its involvement in 2 catastrophic crashes of its 737 MAX jets. 2 people familiar with the matter revealed that the department intended to present Boeing with a non-negotiable plea agreement, demanding a guilty plea or facing trial with scrutiny, intensifying over Boeing's compliance and safety. South Korea President Yoon Suk-yeol faces impeachment petitions signed by over 811,000. An online petition demanding the impeachment of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has gained over 811 signatures, crushing the National Assembly website due to the surge in traffic. The petition launched on June 20th accuses Yoon of mishandling relations with North Korea, escalating the risk of war, jeopardizing South Korea's health by allowing the release of treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant, and involvement in corruption. Here is a full report.
Accuses Yoon of corruption,
stoking the risk of war with North Korea, and exposing South Koreans to health risks by not stopping Japan from releasing treated radioactive water from the wrecked Fukushima nuclear power plant. By law, Parliament is required to assign any petition assigned by more than 50,000 people to a committee which will then decide whether to put it to the Assembly for a vote. The Parliament can call for President's impeachment with a 2/3 majority. The Constitutional Court then deliberates that motion and decides to remove the president. South Korea's parliament has twice impeached presidents, Roh Moo-hyun in 2004 and Park Ju-hee in 2017. Roh was reinstated by the Constitutional Court, while Park was removed.
The United States Justice Department escalated its pursuit of accountability from aerospace giant Boeing BAN, announcing plans to criminally charge the company with fraud over its involvement in 2 catastrophic crashes of its 737 MAX jets. 2 people familiar with the matter revealed that the department intended to present Boeing with a non-negotiable plea agreement demanding a guilty plea for facing trial with scrutiny intensifying over Boeing compliance and safety. Here's the report.
The Justice Department planned to offer Boeing a plea agreement stipulating a significant financial penalty and the imposition of an independent monitor to oversee the company's safety and compliance practices for the next 3 years. The decision to pursue criminal charges against Boeing stems from a determination that the company violated a 2021 deferred prosecution agreement, which shielded Boeing from prosecution over crashes in 2018 and 2019 that resulted in the deaths of 346 people. For Boeing, a guilty plea could lead to severe repercussions, including heightened financial penalties and stricter government oversight. It could also impact the company's ability to secure lucrative government contracts crucial for its revenue stream. Although companies with felony convictions can seek waivers, the specifics of how these might affect Boeing remain uncertain. The push for a guilty plea follows another troubling incident in January, where a panel detached from a Boeing 737 MAX 9 jet during an Alaska Airlines flight just days before the 2021 deferred prosecution agreement expired. The proposed plea agreement includes a heavy financial penalty totaling $487.2 million, though Boeing would only be required to pay half of that amount. This penalty represents the maximum allowable under the charge. Additionally, Boeing may be compelled to provide restitution with the amount left to judicial discretion. The agreement also stipulates a 3-year probationary period for Boeing and requires its board to engage with victims.
Cairo became the focal point of international economic diplomacy as President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen convened for a landmark investment conference against the backdrop of a $7.9 billion funding package aimed at stabilizing Egypt's economy. The conference saw the signing of the lucrative agreements worth billions of dollars, cementing Egypt's pivotal role in European energy strategy amid its regional challenges. Here's a full report.
The conference, which emphasized Egypt's strategic importance as a gateway to North Africa, came in the wake of a significant financial package earlier agreed upon in March. Valued at $7.9 billion, this funding was aimed at reinforcing Egypt's economy amidst mounting challenges such as escalating debt, inflation, and currency instability. A substantial portion of the financial aid comprises small and medium-term loans. However, these agreements are contingent upon Cairo's commitment to ramping up energy exports to Europe and addressing issues related to irregular migration. Similar agreements with other North African countries, including Tunisia, Mauritania, and Libya, have sparked criticism from human rights groups concerned about the treatment of migrants. The European Union views the country as pivotal in diversifying its energy sources away from reliance on Russian supplies. This strategic alignment forms a cornerstone of the European Union's broader energy security strategy. During the conference, President el-Sisi reiterated Egypt's appeal as a prime destination for European investment, highlighting the country's economic potential and regional stability. The event highlights Cairo's role as a linchpin in European Union-North African relations, with implications extending beyond economic ties to encompass broader geopolitical and security dynamics in the Mediterranean region.
And that international news brings us to our first break. We have more lined up for you shortly after the break. Topics you can't afford to miss. Stay tuned with us.
So through the four gospel books, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John, we can know the heart of Jesus in depth.
그리고 우리가 느끼는 그 예수님을 성경을 통해 느낄 수 있어서 너무 감사합니다.
And the Jesus that we can feel him through the scriptures, and I'm very thankful about that. Jesus Christ came to this earth for our
죄를
sins.
지셨고
He carried our sins,
십자가에 못 박혀 죽어 죄의 형벌을 당하셨고
and he was crucified, and he received the punishment for sins,
무덤에 들어가셨다가
and he was put into the tomb
사흘 만에 부활하셨습니다.
and resurrected in 3 days.
이것이 우리가 말하는 복음입니다.
This is the gospel that we speak,
예수님께 우리 죄를 위해 죽으신 이야기.
about how Jesus died for our sins. The purpose of Jesus being
우리
crucified,
죄를 담당하기 위하여 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으셨습니다.
he was crucified to pay for our
그래서
sins.
예수 십자가에 못 박혀 죽으심으로 우리 죄가 분명히 씻어졌는데
And through Jesus being crucified, clearly our sins have been washed clean.
참 안타깝게도 많은 사람은 여전히 죄인이라고 말합니다.
However, unfortunately, many people still say that they are sinners.
Briefly, you can just tell us about your background before you started, like ukafika place uko and you met the IYF Weekend Academy and you started your journey there.
I wanted to do a documentary for my father, who is Apostle Dr. Joe Kayo. He passed on last year, but it was such a hassle to look for an editor.
Parents go na generation ile mtoto wangu ni mwalimu, ni daktari, ni banker, something like that. Lakini ukimwambia I'm a dancer, anajaribu ku explain how can I go and tell the wazee wengine like my daughter or my son ni dancer. You understand? And back to you. Now you are doing your passion. This is something that you wanted. How do you feel about it?
Like a newborn baby. I feel so happy.
Sasa wewe saizi umezaliwa.
Nasikia ni kama ndio nimezaliwa. Actually ndio naanza kuishi sasa. Hizo siku zingine zote nilikuwa na feel tu nilikuwa naishi life ya
another life, yeah.
But now I love what I'm doing.
You know that you are a family man. So how do you balance like hii Weekend Academy na familia yako?
Yeah. But I came to IYF and for the first time I did enjoy reading. I did enjoy schooling.
I didn't expect, by the way. But when the CS came, we were live on NTV. Did you notice?
Yeah.
Now, ikaifanya ikakuwa more than amazing.
Wow,
yeah, it was amazing. Parents came to support us. Everything was amazing. We all looked good, by the way, the gowns.
So, thank you so much for the IYF because we work confidently, we are empowered, we are skillful than how we came here during the month of February. Yes.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back. You are still watching the Ambassador GBS Global, and we are glad to have you join us today. Moving on, the far-right national rally RN party led by Marine Le Pen made historic gains on the first round of the France legislature elections, winning 33% of the vote and positioning itself to potentially form a government. This has triggered a scramble by the left wing and the centrist parties to build an anti-alliance and to block the far right from the power in the second round of the runoffs in July 7th. Here's the full report.
In a stunning turn of events, France's political landscape has been shaken by the historical gains made by Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally Party in the first round of the parliamentary election. With 33% of the vote, The RN and its allies emerged victorious, followed by a left-wing bloc at 28% and President Emmanuel Macron's centrist alliance at just 22%. The results have sent shockwaves through the French political establishment, with parties rushing to build a united front aimed at blocking the RN's path to government. As France grapples with the aftermath of the first round of the parliamentary election, the country stands at a crossroads. The political parties must navigate a path forward that respects the will of the voters while upholding democratic values and ensuring stability. The coming days will be crucial in determining whether France can forge a united front against the far right or if it faces the prospect of a hung parliament and an uncertain future.
Now let us check more on these elections. What are they? It's among the biggest blunders in politics, right up there with Brexit or the Iraq war. I'm talking about Emmanuel Macron's recent gamble. The decision to hold snap elections in France, it's backfired magnificently. Not only has the party slipped to the third position, the far right has made significant gains. They are in pole position to form a government in France. Now you must have about the multiple times the far right in Europe. But what does this exactly mean? What is the far right? Let me take you through. The right wing in Europe does not like social change. They prefer the way things are done, whether in religion or taxes or national identity. And that is the far right. Think of them as the right wing on steroids. They can be radical on the key policy issues. They don't like abortion or gay rights or immigration. Sometimes it can border on racism or homophobia. Many of these parties also do not like globalization. They prefer countries to be in charge of their own affairs, hence their dislike for the European Union. In the 20th century, this thought was associated with the Nazis and the fascists. The far right thought, so far decades the war cast out from the European politics, but now they are making a comeback. They are making gains. Let's look at the numbers in France. These are the results from the first round of the voting. The far right got 33% of the votes, and the left wing got 28%. And the President Macron centrist slammed to the third spot, just 21% of the votes. So the far right clearly won this round. But they did not win the majority, which is why they are going to be the second round. You see, France parliamentary elections are a bit complicated. A candidate must win more than 50% of the vote. If it does not go, then it goes to the second round. And this round, we are talking of the second round, only the top 2-3 candidates will remain. And the candidates who wins maximum votes will be declared as the winner. Now, there are 577 seats in the French parliament. Less than 100 seats have already been decided so far. So now we have a clear winner, more than 50% of the votes. The rest will be declared after the second round. It is slated for next week Sunday. So by next week, we'll have a more clarity. Meanwhile, celebrations have started in far-right camp. They have long considered taboo in France, but now they are the biggest political group in the country. Their leader is Marine Le Pen. She's called the resort to form emancipation. Listen in.
It's a form of great emancipation for the people. They're taking back their freedom. They once are determined to defend themselves against political powers that have hurt them, that weakened them, that ruined them.
This is Marine Le Pen, and what do these results mean for France? Broadly, 3 things. First, tension on the streets. Far-right supporters are celebrating their victory, but others are out to protest. Things have been peaceful so far, but such rival demonstrators can easily spin out of control. Take a look at this. Fallout number 2, it could lead to a new alliance. The far right is not looking for a coalition. They want an outright majority, so the rest of the parties are looking to gang up. Macron has already released a statement. He's calling for a broad coalition against the far right, basically the left plus the centrist. His prime minister also echoed to that call. Listen in.
I say this with the force that the moment calls for, to each and every one of our voters. Not a single vote must go to the national.
Which brings us to the final point, irreparable damage to Emmanuel Macron's legacy. There are three possibilities after the second round: a far-right victory, a left plus a center victory, or a hung parliament. And all this will turn to Macron in the lame duck in the middle of the Olympics. Remember, France will be hosting the Gamers later this month. The whole world will be looking at the France. And what will we see? A president humble and left at the mercy of others. Macron's presidential term lasts until 2027, and as a president, he can still control France's foreign and defense policy. But he needs the parliament to do domestic policies like taxes or immigration or health and education. So we could be looking at a long period of a deadlock in France. A president who doesn't like the parliament and a parliament who doesn't like the president, and that is the end result. No work gets done. And this election, this is the important, not just for France, but the rest of the Europe as well. It will send a shockwave through the continent. France is the second largest economy in the European Union. In the EU, the nuclear power, also parliament member of the United Nations Security Council, in the far right can win France. They can influence European politics. They can push their own position on issues. Take a look at where they stand. Less cooperation with NATO, banning birthright citizenship, tighter immigration rules, less support for Ukraine, and less synergy with Brussels. So France could withdraw from the active role in the Europe, which is the opposite of Macron's position. Having said that, politicians can throw surprises. Just look at what happened in Italy. The doomsday prediction has fallen flat. The far right is leading, and a pro-EU government in Rome. So I guess the only opinion is to wait. The next round is to decide the fate of France and Europe. But even if the far right can't cross the majority, one thing is quite clear. The old taboo is gone, and the only matter is time before they form a government. That is the fate of France. As for now, we'll keep you more updated. Moving on to Israel, Israel has released 55 Palestinians, including the director of Gaza's main hospital, Mohammed Abu Selmiya, who were detained by the Israeli forces. Abu Selmiya was held without charge since November, when Israeli troops raided Al-Shifa hospital, alleging it was being used as Hamas command center. The border conflict between Israel and Hamas has resulted in over 37,800 Palestinians' deaths in Gaza, according to the Territory Health Ministry, with most of the population displaced from their homes and the ongoing fighting and the breakdown of public order. Here's the full report.
Israel has released 55 Palestinians from Gaza, including Mohammed Abu Salmiya, the director of Gaza's main hospital, Shifa Hospital, who was held without charge for 7 months after being captured during a raid on the facility in November. Following his release, Abu Salmiya made startling allegations of mistreatment and torture by Israeli authorities, claiming he and other prisoners were subjected to daily physical and psychological abuse. Abu Salmiya's release has raised further questions about Israel's accusations that Shifa Hospital was being used as a Hamas command center, which the director firmly denied, while accusing Israel of recklessly endangering thousands of patients and displaced people sheltering at the facility. The release of Mohammed Abu Salmiya and his disturbing allegations of mistreatment by Israeli authorities have further highlighted the urgent need for transparency and accountability in the ongoing conflict in Gaza, where the civilian population continues to bear the brunt of the violence.
At the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals SDG Report 2024, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that the world was failing to make sufficient progress in the global goals only 17% of SDG targets was stated to be on track, with over one-third showing stalled or regressed progress. Guterres outlined the urgent priorities, which were securing peace, accelerating green and digital transitions, as well as boosting development financing. The UN chief stressed the world had the means to achieve the SDGs by 2030, but the speed and the scale of change remained far too slow. The report comes ahead of a key UN meeting that is in July and September that will be a pivotal and realigning global effort to achieve these sustainable development goals. Here's the report.
And we don't have a moment to lose. Only 17% of the SDG targets are on track. Progress on over 1/3 has stalled or even regressed. And in a world of unprecedented wealth, knowledge and technologies, the denial of basic needs for so many is outrageous and inexcusable. At the same time, we have what it takes to break through to a better future. And the report carries some glimmers of hope. First, we need action for peace. From Gaza to Sudan, Ukraine and beyond, it's time to silence the guns, to support the displaced, and to pivot from spending on destruction and war to investing in people and peace. Second, we need action on the green and digital transitions. I urge countries to put forward ambitious national climate action plans in 2025 that align with 1.5-degree limit, cover the whole economy, and double as investment plans. And they also encourage a surge in investment in expanding access to digital connectivity and the benefits of the digital economy. And I call on countries to make these transitions just, inclusive, and fully aligned with broader efforts to achieve gender equality. Third, we need action on finance. Many developing countries lack the financial resources and the fiscal space to invest in their futures and the future of their people. We must step up efforts to deliver the SDG stimulus, and that means doing much more to reduce debt pressure and debt servicing costs. It means expanding access to contingency financing for countries at risk of a cash flow crisis. And it means multiplying the lending capacity of multilateral development banks to provide more resources for climate action and sustainable development, and changing the business model to leverage the necessary massive amounts of private finance. I'm working with 10 leaders from a diverse group of countries who are championing efforts to make the SDG stimulus a reality.
On the past 3 decades, increased access to life-saving HIV treatment has averted 20.8 million AIDS-related deaths. In education, just now, as Secretary General pointed out, girls have achieved parity and they even surpassed the boys in completing their schooling at all levels in most regions.
In a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court has determined that former President Donald Trump has partial immunity from criminal prosecution for actions taken during his presidency. The court affirmed that the presidents are immune for official acts but can be accountable for unofficial acts. The decision stems from charges Trump faces related to overturning the 2020 elections. This verdict reduces the likelihood of Trump facing trial before the 2024 election. However, the court did not completely shield him from prosecution, as he could still be held liable for unofficial conduct. The ruling countless legal victories for Trump against the Biden administration, with the Supreme Court ruling having significant implications for the future presidents, raising the stakes of the presidential elections and the composition of the Supreme Court integrities. President Joe Biden addressed the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity on Monday, calling it a dangerous precedent. Listen in.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
And that international news brings us to the end of our Ambassador GBS Global. It's been a pleasure having you on board, joining us to the end. Here at the Ambassador, we continue to bring you the latest updates and the global developments as you keep it locked with us. Have been your Ambassador Jennifer Makau, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here at the Ambassador tomorrow, same time, same place, at 1 p.m. And may you all have a superb afternoon and the most beautiful and wonderful afternoon. Stay safe.